Can y'all hear me? We're just going to make a couple of adjustments here to accommodate my chair. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Do me a favor while I get organized here. Let's give it up for our organizers, for the volunteers, and for the interpreters. So this new regime expects us to be good girls. They expect us to be quiet, to be passive, to be demure. They expect us to surrender. They expect us to bow down to intimidation. Are we going to do that? Oh my God, you're nasty. Who's read the policy platform that the organizers back east put together for this march? Anybody read that policy platform? Pretty ambitious, huh? Well, I'm here to tell you today, I need to speak a really hard truth to you, my friends, and I hope that you can listen to me with love. Because I'm not here to scold. I'm here to educate and recruit you. The disability community is completely missing from the platform.
Yes, they are. Yep.
Sorry, my phone keeps flipping out now. Look, at some point in time, every person here is going to become a person with a disability, either due to injury, illness, or age. The people that you love will experience disability, again, through injury, illness, age, or at birth. And let me tell you something else. Disability is not the worst thing in the world that can happen to a person. Being erased from society is.
Right?
I became disabled 12 years ago. My fiance and I were just riding in a car holding hands, and there was a random shooting. I was shot in the back and paralyzed. He was shot in the head. And in that split second, our identities changed, and we became part of the invisible, people with disabilities. My issues are your issues. If not today, then soon. People with disability and our issues have been invisible in a movement that is seeking to include everyone. This policy statement starts with a shout out to so many amazing women and movements and moments. And so I Googled them. I was really impressed by what I learned. So I'm asking you to add some names to your pantheon of amazing. Just to name a few. Missing from this list, Judy Heumann and Marka Bristow, who worked on disability rights since the day not that long ago that institutionalization was the default for a person like me. Young, growing leaders like Alice Wong and Emily Ladeau, movements like Respectability, Crip the Vote, Adapt, and moments like the Capitol Crawl and the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. These are my icons, and I hope you'll become familiar with them. They have relevance beyond the disability community. There were no out and proud women with disability on the platform. And there were no disability organizations that were part of that either. So here in Arizona, as you're working to form collaborations and partnerships on diversity and social justice, I want you to consider the Arizona Disability Coalition and the Arizona Youth Leadership Forum. And look to your centers for independent living for information on how policies are going to impact the whole community. There are 6 centers for independent living here in Arizona. So who here is working on family justice? Who here is working on ensuring the families that formed and held together, that nurture and enrich without regard to identity? Who's working on that? Did you know that in many cases people with disabilities still can't marry? Did you know that our children are removed from us even if they are well-fed, nurtured, educated, simply because a parent has a disability? We've worked a lot on that in this past year. We could use your help. Who here is working on violence against women? The platform talked about how 1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted in her lifetime. Violence against women is an epidemic in this country. Yet 4 out of 5 women with disability were raped in their lifetimes. 80%. Sit with that for a second. 80% of women like me. Domestic violence occurs twice as often in households where disability is present. And if you are a woman who is deaf, how can you leave if the only person who can interpret for you is your abuser? How can you seek out information if all of the printed material and websites aren't friendly for people with visual impairments? And how can you leave if your abuser takes your wheelchair, your walker, or your legs and maroons you in bed? Let's not leave these women behind. Let's not forget the brutal impact that gun violence has on our families. Let's not forget what that does to our women and children, and let's not forget that these mass shooters have been generally men with a history of domestic violence. That's an issue we've got to talk about too. Sorry guys, this thing keeps flipping around. Let's not forget how how domestic violence can create disability. There was a landmark study done right here in Arizona. Hey Ashley, if you're out there, shout out girl for your work. That showed us that domestic violence and brain injury have a direct correlation to each other. These are issues that we've got to take care of. Who's working on equal pay and employment issues out there? Do you know about sub-minimum wage? Do you know that it's legal to pay a person with a disability pennies on the dollar because we're less productive? Did you know that the unemployment rate for a person with a disability who is ready and able to work is twice as high as the national average? These are issues we've got to consider as well. In terms of economic justice, living with a disability is more likely to mean that you live in poverty, and living with poverty means that you're more likely to have a disability. These are issues that go hand in glove. If you're working on environmental justice, you know the result of what happens when our children drink poison water and breathe toxic air. It leads to disability, and those disabilities for those children go into our schools where their IEPs are ignored, especially in our communities of color and in our Native American communities. And then those disabilities become criminalized and lead from school to prison. Did you know that the Arizona Department of Corrections is the largest supplier of mental health services in Arizona? We criminalize health. We criminalize disability in this nation. Yesterday, the White House removed disability issues from their website. The ADA is under siege. We are under the threat of block granting Medicaid, repealing the Affordable Care Act, and the candidate for Secretary of Education thinks that IDEA is a little issue best left to the states. Civil rights. Civil rights are our birthright too. 26 years after the signing of the Americans with Disability Act that declared that people with disabilities are people with civil rights, it's still very much a gamble whether or not I'll be able to park and safely enter a public space, let alone pee. And to my transgender sisters out there, I get it. Peeing is a human rights issue. Every issue that you touches disability. Don't let them divide us. Don't allow them to characterize people with disabilities as something other, and don't allow them to fall into the label of special needs. No one has special needs. We all have the same needs for clean air, clean water, wholesome food, transportation options, education, jobs, housing. We need access to justice and community and hope and health care. And if my needs are special, then you get to ignore them. In my community, we have a mantra, nothing about us without us. Please engage with the authentic voices in each of the communities represented here today, and in the ones that we're still missing. It's one thing to love and support a person who wears a particular identity. It's another thing to move through the world wearing that face. Reach out beyond your comfort zone. Contact someone here that kind of scares you a little bit. We're not as scary as we seem. Well, some of us. Today must be a beginning. What is starting here cannot end here. If that is the case, then we have failed. We must invest our time and treasure into the future we want for ourselves, for generations to come. And we can't go home and go back to the way things were. We all need you. These people at these tables need you.
Yeah!
Reach out, commit, volunteer for just one activity, and donate where you can, and recruit a couple of friends to come along with you. We will fall and we will fail if we fall back into our slumber and wait until the regime comes for us individually, for our pet issue, for the person who wears your face. We have to build this coalition. We have to take back our government. And somewhere in this crowd are the amazing new leaders. Somewhere in this crowd are new school board members, are people who belong in that House and that Senate and that governor's office. Somewhere in this crowd is a U.S. Senator and potentially a president. Ladies. And when those people come forward, the rest of us have to support them. We've got to knock doors. We've got to make phone calls. We've got to be there for them. We have to support them, and then we got to hold them accountable once they're in office. What makes America great is you. In all of your uniqueness and diversity, we will remind those currently holding power that this is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, all the people. It's starting today, it continues tomorrow, it continues on Monday when our president starts his first day of work. And the next week, and the next month, and the next election, and after that, we can and we will.